On the journey, Doris Matsui. Her story is unique in California, even throughout the United States Congress, from an internment camp to Capitol Hill. Stories never before shared on life, death, and how serving others saved her. What must be shared from you?
I think that as human beings, we must respect each other and be kind to each other, because that's the beginning. That's what makes us human beings here.
Hello. I'm great. How are you? You have to keep moving if you want to catch up with Doris Matsui. What's interesting today?
Well, today I dealt with healthcare, and mental health. Those are always interesting, challenging, but interesting.
Mental health is important to you.
It's very important to me. Besides that,
not a conversation goes by without hearing what matters most to Matsui. It's all about issues facing her constituents that push her fight forward in the U.S. Capitol and here at City Hall. Issues. You deal with them every single day.
Right.
And you're getting on a plane to go back to Washington tonight, where you'll work the whole plane ride. Will you nap at all?
I don't sleep that well on planes. I always feel like I can be ready for some reason. I don't know why.
Well, I wonder if you ever get a break.
Oh, I love what I do.
It's a good thing she does. While home during the congressional recess, Matsui works. Each morning begins at 5 a.m., every hour booked with meetings around the region. A region safer, according to Sacramento's Flood Protection Board, gathering to salute the Congresswoman for landing $3 billion in federal funds for infrastructure needs and flood protection improvements, calling the Congresswoman the leader of the Levees.
This is an exciting place, and I am so privileged to represent a place like this where you can get involved in all these issues, and you have people out there who just say, yes, we're going to do this. So that's where I get my energy.
Well, I've watched you you've been home for 2 weeks,
yes,
and you have been nonstop every step of the way.
I love Congresswoman Matsui for many, many reasons.
Why?
But mostly because she is a values-driven leader who cares about people and who always stands up for the least among us and combines that heart with being incredibly effective.
I'm curious, what will you take back with you this trip home?
I feel that this trip home has been very complete in the way is that we have covered the areas that I believe are important right now. And I just feel that Sacramento is on the move, thrillingly on the move. But I also believe that they know that what took us here is persistence and a lot of resilience too, because we've always had challenges.
She just said the words this journey is all about: challenges, persistence, and resilience. This deeply personal story of Congresswoman Doris Okada Matsui is one never shared so candidly before today. Matsui is a political powerhouse, member of the United States House of Representatives, a fighter for Sacramento, served in the White House as Deputy Assistant to the President during the Clinton administration. Today, a trusted confidant and companion of Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Today, in this journey, what matters most is the power of hope in times of both happiness and sorrow. Born in a World War II internment camp, Matsui shares lessons learned early in life, seeds of hope that would keep her growing and going, planted by her dad.
I grew up on a small farm, and
it's kind of a nice place to be on a farm, and I really probably appreciate it more now than I did when I was growing up. My grandfather had a farm too. He was quite successful. It was a larger operation than what my father had. His name was Ichiro.
What did you call him?
I call him Daddy.
Daddy, okay.
Right, and so he always had to have an alternate plan. And I think that's something, yeah, and I think that's really important. You depend upon each other. And farming is the type of life where you never know what's going to happen. And I remember the sense that we can never take anything for granted. I know we had hard years.
Did that prepare you for political life and, frankly, personal life?
You know, I think back a little bit about that. At the time, I didn't think so, but I always felt confident that we can make it, whatever it was. And yes, you can't stay the same. You always have to try new things. And I think back on that. He was very much that way. And he worked really hard. We knew he worked hard, and he didn't mind it at all. That's just the way it was.
And your mom?
My mom was basically a homemaker, but she was always the one who essentially was there. She was the mainstay.
What'd you call her?
Call her Mom. Yeah. Her name was Maddie.
Maddie. So how long have they been gone?
My mother passed away at a pretty early age. She passed away when she was 53 years old.
Oh my
years
gosh.
old. Yes, very early. She had ovarian cancer. She lived, they told her 3 months. She lived the year, which we were grateful for, because we had time to be with her. You know, with your parents especially, I really fully appreciated what she did, I believe, when she was alive and she wasn't ill, but when she got ill, that took the heart out of us.
It's awful, yeah.
It took the heart out of us.
And then how long did you have your dad?
My dad,
Or your daddy?
he was with us for quite some time. He was so thrilled that he saw Bob get elected to Congress. He was also able to see when I got appointed to the White House. So he passed away when he was 79. So it was during the time that I was in the White House. But he was able to see all of that, and he was thrilled because of his experiences. He just thought that this was the best thing that could ever happen. And he also said to see this in the next generation was really remarkable because of what he'd gone through, what the family had gone through. And he was always somebody who was just so interested in history and so involved in this country. And he loved this country. And he was so aspirational about it.
Aspirational about this country despite a very dark chapter. During World War II, both the Congresswoman's and her husband's entire families were imprisoned in wartime internment camps, along with 120,000 Americans of Japanese descent. This is the camp where Matsui's parents were held captive in the Arizona desert. In the land of the free, the rights of innocent Americans were denied. You were born in an internment camp.
Yes, I was.
And you were there for?
Well, 3 months.
About 3.
I was born at the end of, World War II, when finally they were having people leave. But my father and my mother were born and raised in this country, obviously. My mother in Reedley and my father in Los Angeles. They met and they married in camp. And I was a product of that.
And they had you.
They had me. They had me. And that period of time is something that...
Did they talk about it?
They didn't
much?
talk about it much at all. And I believe it's because they didn't want me, their children, to have this burden on them. And they wanted us to go out and do everything we wanted to do, and do everything like all the other kids in school do. And we did. We did do that.
When did you find out?
Well, the little things along the way, they would talk about it. We didn't think it was what it was, though. When I went to college, I really found out about it. And it was just to learn about how difficult it was, and
how tragic this country made this huge mistake. And I think then it was like the younger generation, of which we were at that point in time, realized it shouldn't have happened at all.
In 1988, Doris's husband, U.S. Congressman Bob Matsui, helped create the Japanese-American Redress Act, signed by President Ronald Reagan. It provided compensation and a formal apology to Japanese Americans who were wrongfully imprisoned. It was a moving moment for the Matsui family.
He said that this was so sorely needed, and that he believed that it proved that this country is everything it's supposed to be. And Bob's dad, in particular, was so thrilled. Part of the legislation was that each person who was alive gets an apology letter. And so when Bob's dad got one and Bob presented it to him, he started crying. And he said, the only other time he saw his dad cry was when his mother died. Mm. And so it was to him, I think it brought back so many hidden feelings that they just tamped down.
Bob Matsui held the same seat in Congress for 25 years. It was 2005. The Matsuis were a power couple in Washington, D.C. Bob had just won re-election with 71% of the vote, and he brought his firstborn grandchild to rehearsals for the swearing-in ceremony of the 109th United States Congress. The day after rehearsals, Bob Matsui started feeling ill, went to the hospital, and died 7 days later, shaking Capitol Hill and the Matsui family to the core. The day after he was to begin his 14th term, his family and both sides of the aisle in Congress gathered to honor his life at Washington Statuary Hall, with eulogies from President Bill Clinton, Secretary Hillary Clinton, and Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
He was very special, I think, and I feel like, when we got married, we just wanted to do everything. I feel that the love he had for Sacramento was just thoroughly just part of his DNA. And I felt that way too in everything that we did together. And I feel strongly now that part of what we did as a couple, we made each other better. That's what it's all about. And so I am forever, maybe grateful is not the right word, but I felt like it's what we did together is what propels me today. Even if today I know I have my own place, which is important to me, but it's also something that was part of what Bob and I started.
Your husband passed away very quickly,
Mm-hmm.
just a matter of days. But did you get any time during those days to say what must be said, to ask what must be asked to each other?
Yes, we did. We had hope that this was not like going to be the end.
Did you know it was happening, though?
Well, not at the beginning, but it got pretty clear that it wasn't going to be good.
We're talking about a matter of about a week.
Yeah. That week, yes, we got to say things to each other. And it was, you never know how these things are going to happen at all. It was a beautiful week. We got to say things to each other and know that the love we had for each other was pure and it's always going to stay there. And that he wanted me to know that he wanted me to go out and do what I wanted to do. And the one thing he said to me that stuck on my mind was, he said, "Did I hold you back?" And I thought, what do you mean? Did I hold you back? I said, no. I did everything I wanted to do with you. And I had opportunities to do things too. And he said, well, you know, he said, I just wanted to make sure.
Did you talk about running? Did you ask him what he thought about?
Well,
I mean, I hate to get that deep into it, but I do want to know, did y'all talk about you running?
He mentioned something to me about how he was concerned. You know, he was prepared to, I mean, he was going to get sworn in a week or so.
And he passed away on January 1st.
Yeah. So, and he was going to be sworn in like January 3rd or something like that. So he said, we have to think about who's going to be running because, you know, and he said, you ought to run. I said, what do you mean? I mean, that never entered my mind because I always thought, you know, I got appointed to serve in the White House. I never thought about elective office at all. That was Bob's deal. He said, well, you know, you ought to think about it. And then he saw me sort of, I think, you know, like, he said, but don't worry, I don't expect you to do it. It's entirely up to you. Which made me feel like, okay, I don't have to do it for him. So it's my decision. But, you know, I'm going to tell you that, you know, we had the opportunity to say goodbye to each other. And a lot of people don't have that opportunity.
You're so
at all.
lucky that you got to do that.
And so it was a beautiful thing. I mean, and people say, what do you mean? I said, really, it was. You just got to say everything you wanted to say. And everybody got, and Brian and was there too, and we got to say goodbye to him.
What was the most important thing you wanted him to know before he left?
That we cared about him, and that everything he did was important for us as a family and for everyone else, and that we're going to be fine.
In the worst chapter of her life, Doris quickly had to make an unexpected decision she never dreamed she'd have to make.
I decided to run. This was, in a sense, what saved me, because I was not the type of person to sit around and try to figure out what to do. I had to do something. I did this because I felt very much that I could do this. It was still a challenge. I had to run and had to set up a campaign.
Because you had a lot of people who wanted that seat too.
Right, and so I needed to do this, and I had to focus on it, and the focus was so important to me, and it was so important, and going through the campaign and knowing what I had to do was really so important to me. It focused me so that I can get beyond sort of this sense of darkness and sense of the gravity of what happened and the grief. Everybody deals with grief in their own way. And I think through that process, I was dealing with it in my own way.
I look at that short period of time with massive emotion. From December 23rd, rehearsing the swearing in for your husband, to 10 days later, you are having to think about running and deciding to run for that office. Mm-hmm. That is some serious strength.
You know, people don't realize how strong they are until they get into it, you know, and you really discover elements of yourself.
Did you know you were that strong?
I didn't, but then again, you know, I think you see pieces of that self when you're growing up, and that you have to be resilient. I also felt I couldn't fail here. Do you know what I mean? I couldn't fail, and I had to get elected here, first of all. And to me, that was a sense that I'm going to do this, you know, and I'm going to get there. And you really realize how much more strength you have than you realize when you're pushed against something. And that's, I think most people do.
You ran and won on your own 2 feet, mm-hmm. and have ever since.
Yes.
That strength to keep going. Your issues now, it's interesting, your issues now in Congress, I see rooting back to the farm.
Oh.
your deep concern about the levees. You are, by many different accounts on both sides of the aisle, considered the walls of these levees. Infrastructure and flood prevention are serious matters to Matsui, putting money where her mouth is, more than doubling the Sacramento region's flood protection. Matsui has secured $3 billion in federal funds to build the Folsom Dam spillway and to pay for the Sacramento region levee project to strengthen our large levee system. Flood protection for a place Matsui says is coming into its own.
I love what's happening here with the art scene, the cultural scene. Sacramento is coming to a place now where we understand how important it is to have the culture here express itself in all kinds of ways.
The overwhelming feeling that I've gotten from you during this time is a lot of hope.
Oh, yeah.
You are so hopeful. And I can take it back, if you don't mind, to a story about your dad and a seed. Will you share that?
Oh,
Please?
yes. You know, my father had been in the seed business, and when he was put into camp, it was a terrible place. It was like barracks and holes in the walls and spaces, and everybody there thought, oh, this is horrible, but we're not going to just sit here. And what they missed was sort of the beauty that they left behind. So my dad had sent for not only the seeds for the vegetables, but he started experimenting with flower seeds and what would grow there. It's a pretty dense, awful place. So they started experimenting, and one day a flower came up and it bloomed. And my dad said, he was telling me later, that everybody there looked upon that as like, oh, out of that comes so much hope. We were doing things, and there is a future here. And so I just think that that was, to me, something that is so important. You know, we can't do anything without hope. We can't.
Who would have ever thought that flower would end up being you?
Oh, I don't think about me being the flower. No.
No, I mean with hope.
Yeah.
The hope it brought there, the hope you're bringing here. I mean, no matter what we've talked about, you have had a way to intellectually and kindly take it to a place of hope.
Well, I hope. I always hope, because I think that is a driving force that we keep inside of us. Because hope gets us through some of the bad places. And that is so necessary today. And I feel that if we can engender hope in some of these young people who have been treated so poorly, if we can at least give them some aspirational qualities, which, by the way, they come here with hope. Their parents come here with hope. And that's what drives them forward. And for all of us who've been blessed to be in this country a long time and participated in ways that have been successful, that hope still needs to be there, because we hope for everyone else to succeed.
When it's all said and done down the road, what do you want to fill in this sentence? Congresswoman Doris Matsui, she.
That's so hard. I guess it would be that she worked on behalf of the people in Sacramento. I really feel that, to me, is public service.
What were you just feeling right there?
Well, it's kind of awesome to a great degree, because
What is?
the fact that, you're asking me that question.
And that you get to do what you get to do.
Yes, right. It's just one of these things where I feel honored that my constituents have voted me in, and that I feel like I need to ensure that I do the best I can for them.
Those thank you notes must feel pretty good, especially the one over there on your desk from a child.
Oh yeah, I love those. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You know, they're our future. The children are our future, and we can never forget that.
Is there something that is so deeply ingrained in you, Congresswoman, that is so maybe making up of who you are as a human that it might not even be on the tip of your tongue normally because it's part of your fiber, but what must be shared from you? Is there something that must be told?
I think that as human beings, we must respect each other and be kind to each other, because that's the beginning. That's what makes us human beings here, and that's what makes us reach out and help others.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
I appreciate you
Absolutely.
so much. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
This is The Journey on your PBS station. You can help others on their journey. Go to your favorite social media app and share the show.